Shiv, we see Iran has attacked in the last 24 hours Tel Aviv. And Israel, of course, says the injuries are not much. The attacks haven't really landed on the targets as they claim, but they're prepared. And they warn Iran that they're going to come back at Iran at the time and place they choose. The Iran guards also responding, saying if you react to these missile attacks, we're going to escalate this war. What does this really do now to world order?
Well, Nabila, the very image that we had last night of those huge barrages of missiles flying into Israel made one thing very clear, that while some of those missiles were most definitely going to be intercepted by Israel's very advanced air defense systems, like David's Sling, Iron Dome and Arrow, there was always going to be the possibility that many of these missiles would ultimately land and impact on their targets. Now, three major targets that we saw being mentioned by Iran and actually confirmed on the ground in Israel are three principal Israeli Air Force bases. These are the Nevatim base, the Hatzerim base and the Tel Nof base, which are basically three Air Force bases that house most of the Israeli Air Force's combat aircraft strength, including F-35 stealth fighters, F-15 strike fighters and F-16 air defense fighters. So these are the very aircraft that have actually been conducting the airstrikes, both in Gaza, in Yemen and now in Lebanon. And therefore, for Iran to be able to hit those air bases with any degree of accuracy sends out not just a symbolic message but a physical message. Remember, it's important to note that at this point of time, while Iran is talking about inflicting a great deal of damage at these air bases, there is no confirmation yet from the ground that aircraft have actually been damaged. The Israeli government has said that a few people have been injured, but no extensive damage has been reported. But we should leave room for the possibility that there is a fog of war right now. Sometimes information can change, as the reality emerges a little better once there is more information from these air bases. But like you said, the fact that Israel has now reserved the right to respond directly to Iran at a time and place of its choosing, and the United States stepping in and saying that they have an ironclad support for Israel, the possibility of this spilling out into a wider conflict is very, very real. The region is on tenterhooks right now. What can that escalation from Israel's side actually be? What will be the end game on that? Because remember, it's complicated. An attack on Iran at this time will have to keep eyes on what's happening in Lebanon as well. The Hezbollah has been conducting ambush raids. Our reporter on the ground, Ashraf, has been talking about ambushes of Israeli soldiers in southern Lebanon now that the ground offensive has started. So it has become complicated. Israel's main concern will be not to get bogged down in a ground war at this point of time. So much more information expected in the hours ahead.
I will get your word also on India. Prime Minister Modi there spoken to Netanyahu of Israel just a day ago and assuring if there is any help that India could provide in ensuring and bringing peace within that zone, then we're willing to help. If you could decode what that really means. But before I come to you on that, Lauren Isaacs, give us a sense on who are your allies. At this point, we know United States has said that they are going to fully back Israel, but also at the same time has frowned upon the pounding that's happened in Lebanon, which has put civilians in Lebanon at risk.
Right. Well, we have many allies around the world, thank God, as Israel is the only liberal democracy in the entire Middle East and is a beacon of light that is fighting terror from this side of the world. Of course, we know that America and India and all these places are our allies. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what's important to know and what Israel continues to stress is that our problem is not with the Lebanese people, even though we are attacking in Lebanon. And our problem is not with the Iranian people, even though we are attacking in Iran and all these things. We are attacking the axis of terror that Iran has put into place with its terrorist proxies in the region. In Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Gaza, those are the people we have a problem with. We have a problem with the terrorists and the terror proxies of Iran. Now, everyone who stands against terror, against Iran, against its proxies, stands with Israel. Our allies are found all over around the world. Everyone who stands for peace, for prosperity, for democracy, for the rights of civilians to live without being held under the threat of radical terrorism. Those are Israel's allies, and they are found in every corner of the world, and we are very grateful for that. We will see in time to come, actions are more important than words when our allies make statements about they support us or they support our right to defend ourselves or to stop the threat of terrorism. We will see if that comes to fruition when the time comes to take actions and not just words. But right now, we are very grateful. We have many allies around the world, obviously America being one of our loudest and most powerful allies. But thank God, we're very grateful for everyone who supports Israel and democracy and safety and security around the world.
Lauren, well, of course, prayers going out to civilians. They're the ones who bear the brunt, whichever part of the world. And at this point, Israel seems to be the victim with the barrage of missiles that came in from Iran. And they warned against any kind of escalation. Let me bring in Shiv Arur on this. Shiv, on India speaking to Netanyahu, Prime Minister Modi establishing contact with Netanyahu just a day ago and assuring that there is no place for terrorism within this country, within this zone, in this world, assuring any help needed that India is willing to provide. What could you decode it? What does India mean?
The statement from the Indian Prime Minister to Israel is a very important one. If one were to break down what the Prime Minister has said, he's used the word terrorism in the context of what's happening in Lebanon, particularly with the Hezbollah. That sends out a very direct message because remember, Nabila, India's position in this conflict is a very, very unique one. India is one of the few countries that has good, positive, vibrant diplomatic relations with Israel, with Palestine and the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, but the Palestinian Authority, as well as with Iran. All of these three entities India has healthy relations with, which is why, diplomatically speaking, India stands in a unique position to be able to play perhaps some kind of a bigger role. What exactly that role is, we don't know just yet. It is also true that the Indian Prime Minister has a very good personal rapport with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. Not only has he established contact, he's been in regular touch with the Israeli Prime Minister since October last year. Remember, it was the Indian Prime Minister who was one of the first world leaders to issue a statement after the Hamas attack on October the 7th last year. So even now, when we talk to the Israeli embassy here, when we talk to people from the Israeli government, they see India in a way that they don't see other countries, because India, like in the same configuration as Russia and Ukraine, stands in a unique position to be able to channelize conversations and dialogue with both the warring parties. In this case, all three warring parties. And that's the reason why expectations from India as some kind of a buffer. The United States is very clear. It has ironclad support for Israel. But India, being in the region already, having so-called skin in the game, in West Asia in a very, very big way, is seen to be in a position to be able to actually do something. The $1 million or $1 billion question, Nabila, of course, is what can India's role actually be? The contours of that are not out just yet.
Shiv, I'd like you to stay with us. We know that Iran has targeted Israel in the last 24 hours, keeping an eye out on their military prowess. We understand, and if I could take our viewers through here, Israel being targeted at their air bases. Here's precisely the target. Iran has struck at 3 of Israel's military bases. Mossad headquarters has been targeted. In fact, if I could take you through the 3 of the headquarters of the air bases include Hatzerim, Tel Nof, and basically these are the 2 military bases along with Nevatim. 3 military bases in total. And these are the military bases that also houses advanced US F-35 fighter jets. Now, if I could give you a sense of the kind of jets that are stationed in these air bases that were struck. Now, to what extent this kind of ammunition and jets were damaged is something that we get to establish, but F-35s, F-15s, all used in bombing Lebanon and Syria, that were housed in one of those bases. That base has been targeted by Iran. Iran seems to have fired missiles from the Shiraz missile base, and they've used the Fatah missiles extensively in the attack against Israel.